In this video, I'm going to speak about LSA and SPF throttling, and I'm going to tell you why you would need to change the timers for these two configurations. So first of all, you should know that when there is a change in your network, you have an LSA created. That LSA is going to be sent to other routers. Other routers are going to consider that, and based on that, they are going to change their database, which means that they need to run the shortest path first algorithm, and they are going to calculate new paths, new, let's say, map of the network. Now what we need to do is to say, if there is a change in the network, maybe that change is not going to be permanent change. Maybe that change has happened because of a link flap. Maybe that change is not let's say intentional. That change should, revert. So what I'm going to do is to say, before sending this information to other routers, I'm going to wait for some time. Maybe that change is reverted and I do not really need to do anything. LSAs have something like a revision number. And when there is an LSA created, other routers are going to check to see whether this is the previous LSA or a new LSA. If this is a previous LSA, so that's okay, they are not going to do anything. If this is a new LSA, they are going to read the content, and based on the content, they are going to start calculating the new map of the network. So we are, sending LSAs after a change in our network. But if there is no change in our network, we still want to say LSAs to other routers. Why? Because they are expecting to see that we are alive, we have information about our network, and they are going to read that information. If that information has changed, they need to change the map that they have created, actually the database that they have created of the network. And SPF says that, okay, now that I have received an LSA, I'm going to start recalculating the network map. But let's say that I'm not going to do this, I'm going to wait. Maybe an LSA is going to be received in a short time. Maybe there is a link flap in the network and the previous LSA is no longer valid after 1 second or 2 seconds. So what I'm going to do is to delay the start of SPF. And this is what SPF throttling means. So LSA means that we are not going to send the change immediately, because the default is immediately, but we are going to wait for something like 5 seconds, for example. SPF throttling says, after receiving the LSA, I'm not going to start the calculation immediately, because again, the default is immediately, but I'm going to wait something like 5 seconds, and then I'm going to say, okay, this LSA is a stable LSA, and I'm going to do the calculation and make sure that the calculation is going to be, let's say, new. The map is going to be new, or the database is going to be new. Let's say that I have this network here, and normally you put all of your routers in one area, that is area backbone. That is the default. As a matter of fact, what you do is to keep all your routers in one area unless you have a good reason for creating extra areas. Let's say, for example, you say my database is growing too much and that is pushing me to create extra areas, or I have some low-end routers, I need to put them in another area because they are affecting the area stability. Or let's say that my area, there are lots of different reasons that you might want to go for creating a new area. But like I said, the design concept says that you need to have only one area unless you have to. And you can put something like 50 routers, 100 routers, a lot of routers. There is no specific number. Some people say 50, some people say 100, but I would say this totally depends on the type of routers that you have, the capabilities of them, and the specification of the network that you are creating. So how can I change this LSAs? What you need to LSA throttling and SPF throttling, what you need to do is to go to OSPF process. So you just go to configuration mode, and you need to do this on all routers as a matter of fact, but I'm doing this on just one router, and I'm going to replicate this to other routers. So what I'm going to do is to say router OSPF1. Here I'm going to have timers throttle, and after that you can see that I have LSA throttling timers and SPF throttling timers. So let's say that I'm going to go with LSA, and it says what is the delay after the first occurrence of something in your network that you are going to create a new LSA. Let's say that I'm going to say 5 seconds, so I'm going to go with 5,000 milliseconds, which means that that's a good time for, you know, checking link flap, right? And then it says what is the minimum delay between originating the same LSA in milliseconds, which means that, as a matter of fact, we send the same LSA every something like 5 seconds, right? That is because others are going to know about my network stability. If I want to increase this, I can. I'm going to go with the default one, and I know that if LSA doesn't change, the second try is going to be in 5 seconds. The third try is going to happen 10 seconds after the second one, which is going to be 15 seconds as a matter of fact, or something like this. If I have this 5 second wait, that is exactly what I did here. This one says the next LSA should be generated in 5 seconds. If I'm not having any change, that is going to be repeated. Then the second one is going to take something like 10 seconds. Then the next one is going to take something like 20 seconds. Then the next one is going to take something like 40 seconds, right? And what is the maximum of this? The maximum of this is going to be exactly what you are going to specify here. You say, let's say for example, I'm going to say for 60 seconds, which is going to be 60,000 milliseconds, which means that if I am originating the same LSA, I'm not going to originate the same LSA no later than 60 seconds. That is exactly what this says. I'm going to hit enter. And for SPF, again, the same logic applies. I can say that after receiving an LSA, I'm not going to start calculation immediately. I'm going to start the calculation 5 seconds after that. And then the next calculation, if LSA hasn't changed, is going to happen 5 seconds after that. Something like this. This is the first one. This is the first delay that I am imposing here. The second is going to be 5 seconds. That is exactly what I'm doing here. And then it is going to, you know, do this. It's not going to do anything. It's going to wait for 10 seconds, then 20 seconds, then 40 seconds, and I'm not going to go more than 60 seconds for the next one. So I'm going to say if no new LSA has been received, I'm not going to, you know, delay the SPF more than 60 seconds. So I'm going to hit enter. So this is the calculation, as a matter of fact. Like I said, you should do this on all routers. So I'm going to select this command and I'm going to send it to all routers in my network. I'm going to say, let's go here to here. I'm going to go to configuration mode and I'm going to say router OSPF1. I'm going to paste these commands here and enter. Now if I just go to all routers, I can see that they have all applied. Now, if you just type show IP OSPF, that's going to show you information about the throttling timers, specifically here. You can see that it says the whole timer, which was the second value that I entered, is 5 seconds. The wait time for LSA throttle is going to be 60,000 milliseconds, which is the third value that I just entered here. And there are some other, of course, configuration like minimum LSA arrival, which means that I'm going to wait for this amount of time for the arrival of a LSA. And if I check for SPF timer, that would be here. The initial SPF schedule delay is 5 seconds. That is going to be the first value that I entered. And minimum hold is going to be like 5 seconds, and after that the next one is going to be 10 seconds, the next one is going to be 20 seconds, the next one is going to be 80 seconds, as a matter 40 seconds, and the next one is going to be 80 seconds, but I just said that no more than 60 seconds. That is going to be this. And of course it says incremental SPF is disabled, which I have not, of course, configured here. And this one, the initial LSA throttle delay, which is going to be the first value that I entered here, is going to be 5 seconds.